Let's jump right into this explainer. We've all seen it, right? Whether it's in our own lives or blasted on a screen, that visceral, all too familiar image of extreme clutter. I'm talking about rooms filled literally beyond capacity, objects layered into these towering, unstable stacks, and pathways through a home that are narrowed down to the mere width of a human body. Today, we're unpacking a truly fascinating essay by RJ Starr to figure out exactly why this happens. Because when we're confronted with that kind of image, we almost instinctively ask ourselves, how does it get this way? We see the chaos, and we just kind of assume that the physical mess sitting right in front of us is the entire problem. But RJ Starr completely flips the script on us here. Assuming those visible objects are the core issue, well, that's entirely imprecise. Accumulation itself is not the problem. Treating it like it's just some failure of discipline or a lack of organization completely misses the underlying architecture of what is actually happening in the mind.
So we need a major paradigm shift. As Starr puts it, hoarding is not fundamentally about objects. It is about what those objects are doing within a psychological system. It's actually a patterned response to instability. It emerges under very specific conditions where the simple act of letting go becomes psychologically unsafe. Let's break this down into the 4 distinct psychological domains where this takes place.
We'll start with the first layer, which is emotion. In this domain, objects are almost never neutral. A photograph isn't just a piece of paper. A sweater isn't just fabric. For someone who hoards, these objects actually function as external emotional regulators. They hold a heavy emotional weight that the person feels they can no longer carry internally. So the physical home becomes entirely saturated with emotional function. Because of that, removing an item isn't just cleaning up. From the outside, tossing an old receipt into the trash seems totally simple. But from within that psychological system, it's interpreted as a profound loss. It's a severe threat to their emotional equilibrium. Basically, to discard something is to deregulate their entire emotional system.
Now let's move on to the second domain, identity. If emotion explains the intensity of the attachment, identity explains its persistence. This really kicks into high gear during major life disruptions. Think about a profound loss, a sudden retirement, or a big move. When our internal sense of continuity weakens, we desperately search for outward proof that a past version of ourselves was real. And objects, they become that evidence.
And this is exactly why letting go is excruciatingly hard. To discard an object structurally feels like wiping out a piece of your own identity. The object is literally a load-bearing pillar for who they are. Throwing it out isn't about clearing space, it's erasing a piece of the self.
Okay, into our third domain, mind. Here, we really have to shatter this misconception of simple indecision. People look at a hoarder and think, come on, just pick what's important. But their cognitive system's ability to differentiate, what psychologists call salience, has completely broken down. They literally cannot accurately calibrate or rank the relative importance of items. Suddenly, every single thing carries potential value.
And because everything could matter, and absolutely nothing can be confidently dismissed, this impaired filtering makes keeping things the default outcome. Think about it. If you can't justify releasing an item because you can't measure its exact importance, the absolute safest move for your brain is simply to retain it. It's not a malicious strategy, it's just total cognitive gridlock.
Our final domain is meaning. In this space, the psychological system desperately refuses finality. Just think about it. Keeping an object preserves its possibility forever. It might be useful later, right? Or it might be repurposed. It remains totally open and unresolved. The surrounding physical environment just morphs into this massive field of suspended decisions.
For someone struggling with meaning and closure, discarding forces an unbearable definitive endpoint. Throwing something away transforms endless, beautiful possibility into a harsh, unchangeable conclusion. And for a vulnerable mind, that kind of closure doesn't feel like resolution. It feels like erasure.
Which brings us to the really tragic conundrum of hoarding. On a micro level, every single time a person decides to keep an item, it actually solves an immediate psychological strain. It temporarily stabilizes them. But the accumulation of those stabilizing decisions produces global, unlivable chaos over time. It's completely rational in the moment, but devastatingly misaligned in the macro.
Part 1. When pathology becomes entertainment. RJ Starr makes a really fascinating shift in the essay here, moving our lens away from the subject's internal mind to us, the external observers. Shows like Hoarders always claim to raise awareness, but if you look at their actual structure, they are intentionally constructed to hold our attention through extreme contrast and constant escalation.
They design scenes specifically to evoke shock, introducing this serious ethical tension, where intense, real-life suffering is literally packaged into consumable television.
Now this is where the essay pulls off an absolutely brilliant parallel. Both the person on the screen and the person sitting on the couch watching are actively engaging in psychological regulation. The hoarder is organizing their environment to preserve their internal continuity. The viewer, on the other hand, is organizing their perception to reinforce their separation from the hoarder.
So watching these extreme forms of disorder isn't just a passive act for us. We watch them to externalize the behavior. We use the extreme chaos on the screen as a reference point to comfortably validate our own sense of order. Basically, the more extreme the hoarder appears, the more normal we feel. Distance is stabilizing. We are using their visible pathology to make ourselves feel safe.
Part 2. The mirror. Returning the question to the self. But Starr doesn't let us stay comfortable in that distance for long. It's time to turn the mirror right back onto ourselves. Because hoarding isn't just some bizarre anomaly confined to a physical house. It's actually an extreme expression of what every single one of us does. Think about it. How many of us hoard relationships long past their viability? How many of us stubbornly hold on to roles or narratives that simply no longer fit us, absolutely refusing to relinquish them because letting go feels like losing a piece of ourselves?
Starr fundamentally changes how we view this behavior with one incredible observation. The line between holding and hoarding becomes less fixed than it first appears. It is drawn wherever something is kept not because it is needed, but because it cannot yet be let go. Accumulation happens to all of us whenever the conditions make release feel psychologically unsafe.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a lingering thought. We've seen how keeping objects regulates emotion, identity, mind, and meaning. We've seen how we eagerly distance ourselves from the extremes just to feel safe. But looking inward at your own invisible accumulations, what feels unsafe for you to let go of?